Hello. Let's look at what it would take to get started with the Visual Studio Code .NET Interactive Notebooks. I've already installed this extension that you can find in the Visual Studio Code extension gallery called the .NET Interactive Notebooks. Now that I've got that installed, when I bring up the command palette, I have two new options, either to open a notebook with .NET Interactive or to create a new blank notebook. I'm going to go ahead and create a new blank notebook. And that will give me this new editor surface in which I can mix my code and my markdown. So let's say that I want to do a little experiment with the null coalescing operator and the null coalescing assignment operator. The first thing I would do is just try out a little code. So I'll say something where I'll just create a string, name nothing, and I'll assign that to be null. And a string named something that I will assign a value of something. And you can see this is straightforward C# code. What I could do is create a new variable. Let's call this result, and I will assign it to be the result of the null coalescing operator with nothing and something. Now if I want to see the value of result, I can simply type the value here, and then I can run this block. I could either run it by clicking on the execute cell button, or you can see I can also just do Control-Alt-Enter. You can see it outputted the value something, which is the value of result. Now the really interesting thing about these notebooks is that I could then mix my description of what just happened or what's about to happen with the code itself. So I'll create a new markdown cell, and I could say this is the null coalescing operator. And now I could go on and have some more code. So I could just add another code block by clicking on this plus code. And I could go and do whatever else I need to do. Inside of the markdown block, I can use markdown. So if I want to make null coalescing in bold, I can have the appropriate markdown for that. And then if I click this little checkbox, we'll actually just go ahead and render it as markdown. So then if we want to have another code block, we could go ahead and start typing the code here. So let's say that I want to try out the null coalescing assignment operator. So I could say var1 equals null, var2 equals 2. And in this case, you can see I'm getting IntelliSense telling me that I've done something wrong. I can't use var when I'm assigning the value to null initially. So I'll go ahead and make this a string. And what I can do is I can declare another string variable for the output. And then I'll say that output equals 1, and then the null coalescing operator to 2. I'll look at the output. And we can see that the assignment of 2 was passed from the 2 variable to the 1 variable all the way to the output. And so I might want to add some additional markdown in here describing what I just did. I could say this is the null coalescing assignment operator. And maybe I want to put some markdown in this one as well. I'll go ahead and render this. Now I notice that I have a typo up here, so I can come back up to this block, and there's this edit button, so I'll click that. And let's go in and fix this typo. And I can render that again. Now I might want to start referencing code from earlier blocks in the later blocks. And if you were thinking about this in terms of code, these are all in the same scope. So if I wanted to say something like console.writeLine result plus output, I'll run this, and you can see I got something 2. This demonstrates a couple things. One, I can also use a console.writeLine to display things in the notebook. And anything that is in scope up in these earlier code blocks is in scope in the later code blocks as long as these code blocks have been executed. So that gives you a real quick introduction to the .NET Interactive Notebooks in Visual Studio Code. I would encourage you to go install the extension and try it out for yourself.